Happy Wednesday, happy Wednesday. How y'all do? I'm Wiley, favorite information scientist, giving you an update. It is day 3 of being back at work. I say the third day because I had to come Monday for a lab group meeting. And um that was from 1 to 3, and then I went 1 to 2:30, and then I went home. And so Tuesday was my first official being here all day. And it went fine as far as like the day itself. I think it's getting back in the rhythm. I really appreciate um, my mentor for sending me that audio clip on yesterday. I needed to hear that because learning to get back in the rhythm when you've been away for 9 months has literally made me feel like, y'all remember that Fantasia Barrino image where she was, I think, performing, and at the end of the performance, she's throwing her head back, crying, and somebody leading her off the stage. That's how I feel. Learning to get in this rhythm of wearing all these clothes. What you mean I can't go cook lunch because it's 11 o'clock? And I got to bring everything, and I got to stay here till the end of the day. Oh, it's a whole, committee meetings or just meetings at certain times. So just getting used to that, what I find myself doing, and it's gonna be okay. Uh, But yesterday I made it. Also, I'm making this video because yesterday I had the experience of getting this email. It was the second time I got an email about doing a review for an article, and I remember really thinking about it and deciding that I was going to decline. And I wrote the editor, and I wrote the person that sent me the email a note, and then I declined. Because, I'm trying to anticipate or prepare for a meeting, about post sabbatical responsibilities for my job on Monday with my boss. I have information science showcase poster and an assist poster to prepare for in November. So and I also have the experience of being on 9 committees before going on sabbatical, and knowing that I have a tendency to overcommit, to overdo, and I've long told you I already have a PhD in people pleasing. They have just not sent me my hood. They never will, but I already own that because I have been a long time people pleaser. Me. I don't know if I have any fellow siblings in Cyberland or wherever you might be watching from, but hey, I know, and I'm not judging you if you tell me you've never had that problem. Cool, great, happy to hear it. But I have. So I know when the editor of the journal, who I do know, or at least have known for some time, sent me that line, that sent me an email and said, it was unfortunate that I declined. I felt some kind of way. And I don't mean a negative way. I felt like, oh man, I let such and such down. Oh man, I disappointed. I don't want to disappoint such and such. And yes, I rode on home, but I was thinking about it most of the evening. What I ended up doing was relaxing, smoking a cigar, bubble bath time, cooking my favorite meal, watching my favorite James Bond movie. Because for some reason on Amazon, James Bond movies, they have all of them now, and they're not under a special subscription. So I've been watching different ones. So I was watching Diamonds Are Forever. That's a good one. I like the special effects. I can't really say there's a specific James Bond that I absolutely enjoy watching, but I digress. I was just really thinking about why was I upset about that email, even whether it was a form letter or it was that particular editor's actual position. I was like, oh man. And then I also was thinking about a good friend of mine, Toya, who used to talk about how when people do things for us, sometimes it can feel like we owe them forever. And we used to have this running joke that we were just gonna give get a plaque and write the plaque or write on the wall, thank you for all this time. Because you do have some people who, once you've done something for them, they remind, even after you thank them or said, I appreciate you, anytime they ask anything else, it can sometimes feel like you owe them. And so she's had that, running joke about, get the plaque. And I think those were the internal feelings that I felt because I was like, man, do I owe this person? And I'm like, but I already thanked them for all the things that they did. But yet there is unfortunate line held weight. And I think criticism can hold weight when it's people that you know. If it's strangers, people you don't have a relationship with of any type, it doesn't hold the same weight. But then I also was evaluating what I had learned most during my sabbatical time about myself, my own capacity. And what I ended up writing in my journal was that it's okay to disappoint people. It's okay to say no. It's okay to honor the fact that, hey, you know what I really thought about, to count the cost and think, can I do this task? And to actively say, hey, you know what, I can. And it doesn't mean that I was intentionally being mean or just being a jerk or just saying, I don't wanna. Even if I did all those things, we get to do that. But in the case of this, hey, I just couldn't. I have other things that I need to focus on. And I did not want to get um uh, deeply focused on giving a review when I have other pressing things that are due within the next 2 weeks. So those are just lessons that I learned. And also, too, I think the other thing that I was thinking about is I was also thinking about the conversations that I've had with my mother since my dad's passing and how she's talked about how busy my father was. And that's not necessarily new information. My father was really busy. It's interesting to me when I think about the rhythms of his life and the rhythms of my life, how they're often mirrors, because I did learn my work ethic from my father. He was always busy. He was very dedicated to his work, church work, school work, when he was going to continuing his education, where he was completely all in. And my mother was talking about how, he didn't know how to rest. He didn't know how to relax. I've struggled with that in my own experiences. And my mother had said that, since his passing, a lot of those groups, a lot of those organizations, entities, and the like, that he's would always be rushing back home to or always participating in. She was like, none of them have called since he's gone. Not at all. They haven't said anything. And she was like, I'm not upset about it. I'm just saying that's interesting to me to think about how we use our time. And the lessons that she's learned is that she's not going to commit herself to everything. She's going to honor her time and try to gird her own strength. And if she doesn't feel like it, if it's something that feels like it's too much for her, then it's okay. That's the lesson that she's learned out of that. And I think about it, and sometimes I think I've thought, well, if my father hadn't done that, would he still be here? I know there's no real way to answer that because you can't change the hands of time and his decisions, his actions, and everything. That's what he did. So I'm sure he had reasons and he had things that were driving him to do the things that he was doing. Yet, while all of that's true, I still think about well, what do I want to learn from that? What do I want to gather from that? And I always come back to this saying that he used to have, where he would say, if you always do what you always done, then you always get what you always got. And I extend that in my own life and think, are you good with that? And one of the things that I got out of the sabbatical experience was learning that a lot of the habits, a lot of the practices that I had were not healthy or helpful. That sometimes I was running myself ragged. Sometimes I was really good in some spaces and in other places. And there were some areas that really needed a lot of improvement and that I had not been helpful in other situations. I had made the main thing, the thing that didn't need as much focus. I had overplayed my position in some places, in some spaces and places. I didn't hold the position that I thought I held. So it was just a real big aha for me. Because for once I didn't have responsibilities, commitments. All I had was time and space to look at me, actions, inactions, and everything in between. And I also feel like cue that song, nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. There was no need to get defensive because you're gonna be here next week because I had 9 months. So So as I think about what did I learn and what do I want to carry forward in my life today, it's honoring, the fact that sometimes I'm going to disappoint people. Sometimes I am going to let them down. And it's not intentional. It's just, hey, I can't do that. And that's okay. And I can say, even as I say that out of my mouth, that doesn't mean that I have it all together. I still struggle with that. And I still felt all my feelings when I read that email, even though I sent the nice email back and or initially and said, hey, I can't do it. And also being okay that some people are not going to understand, even when you send your statements and you have a good explanation, a good reason, a good justification, or just even if it's just a single no. People are entitled to their own opinions, their own feelings, and their own emotions. That is not my responsibility. It's tough out here in these adulting streets. I don't remember that in the race to adulthood, all the things that you have to deal with emotionally, logistically, capacity wise. Juice boxes and naps were the life, and somebody else is totally handling that. It was the life, or at least in some cases it was, in some cases it was not. But hey, I continue to learn, I continue to grow, I continue to try to be the best me that I can be. And hey, I hope that wherever you are, you're remembering that you matter, that you get to say no, that you get to do whatever it is that you feel is best for you. Do that, Brad. I'm cheering for you. That's all I got. I hope you have a great day. Peace. See you next time.